you have to really, look at yourself in the mirror and see, is this really the path that I want to take? Where is this pressure coming from? Is this from society? Is this from my partner? Is this from my parents? Like, who is this coming from? And then learn to create boundaries. And if you need to distance yourself, then do so. Because if you need your own space.
Welcome to the Raw and Real podcast. Are you dreaming of changing your life through opening a business? Or are you curious what obstacles entrepreneurs had to overcome on their journey? Then you're in the right place. My name is Agnes Pillik and I'm your host. Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of Raw and Real. Today's guest on the show is Joanna Dahlman. She's a public speaker and founder of Core Events, a company which specializes in organizing corporate events with a focus on health and wellness. Hey Joanna, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. It's such an honor.
You have such an interesting story that you really managed to transition from working in the States at Fortune 500 companies to being an entrepreneur here in the Netherlands. So I'd really like to start talking a little bit about your time in the States in California, what that was like for you working at a company like Apple.
So California was a wonderful starting point for my career and also for my upbringing. However, I didn't start working for Apple until I moved to Texas. They hired me while I was still in California. I moved to Texas. I started with them. Then I moved to Miami. And that was fantastic. My time at Apple was wonderful and such an enriching part of my life. I was able to grow through a lot of discomfort, through a lot of change, through a lot of uncertainty, right? As you keep growing and you keep doing better, as you keep growing a region. And this was fantastic. Once I left, I realized that being at such a high point, it almost felt like no other company at the time would allow for me the same opportunities in terms of growth, in terms of knowledge, or just in that same mindset. Every company, just like every person, has their own mindset, their own culture, the way they do things, the way they want to expand and their creative thinking to solutions. And so the next company I was at was not at the same level. And so due to that, I was almost by a matter of synchronicity, I was somewhat pushed into and encouraged into entrepreneurship. And
so how did that happen?
Well, I had a friend. I still have a friend. He's CEO of a large company and he had some projects in Latin America. And because I have my background in Latin America, I was head of Latin America for meetings and events at Apple. He told me, I need your help and you're the only one who can help me. And I know you're perfect. And so that was actually the first time I had to write a proposal and submit something to an organization outside of the friendship, correct? To an organization so that from there, he was essentially my first client. And from there, then I just continued either working freelance, contract, or continuing on with certain clients. So during my time in the States, that started while I was in Miami. Then I moved to Denver and that continued on. And then when I met my husband and we moved to the Netherlands, then it's almost where an identity shift happened, not just with me, but also with my health on multiple levels. I was getting married, so I was no longer single. So that was another identity that I had to shed. My health also took a turn. I developed alopecia, which is an autoimmune disease. And so my focus was more towards health and wellness. So even though previously I was in project management, I was in strategic planning, I was in business development, I was in meetings and events, corporate meetings and events, then with my health and wellness, with this alopecia, and once I was able to reverse it, I created a platform for alopecia called Alopecia Angel. And so through that platform, I've been able to help others. And then through the events side of it, I merged it with health and wellness, created Core Events. And so that also has shifted and kind of created its own new identity because before it was called Local Latin. And so I felt like, and I feel like my transition to Europe and to the Netherlands has shed a few identities, letting go of previous experience situations and then almost up-leveling to a new found source of passion, pursuits, and just really commitment to what I value and to what I feel is so important in my work and in my drive and in my path.
And how did you really make the transition to health and wellness? Because that's quite a different topic than what you were involved with before.
Correct. So before I was all in corporate, working for multiple Fortune 500 companies, contracting and freelancing for them. And although I still work in tandem with them at times, the health and wellness shift started with my own health and wellness situation. So when I developed alopecia, I lost 50% of my hair. It was a multitude of factors. And so it took a multitude of factors to get well and to get healthy again.
And how did that all happen? Like, what do you think are the factors that led to it?
Well, there's a lot. First, it's diet and nutrition. We have stress levels. We have sleep. We have, potentially toxins in the environment. There's a multitude of things that create, a healthy person or that create disease. And so what we want to do is to always create health and wellness. But when we put aside what we know is right, let's say skipping on sleep, maybe eating what we shouldn't be eating or overindulging in sugar or alcohol or caffeine or certain other things, maybe allowing stress to overcome us. And there's certain times in our lives, right, that these things happened, right? It could be holidays. It could be maybe times of financial stress. It could be during your entrepreneurship journey that we are going to have to go through stressors, but learning how to manage that and to have the correct nutrition, have the correct vitamins and supplements to support your body, and doing everything in your power to support your body reduces the amount of possibility for these either autoimmune reactions or other diseases that are possible through stress and lack of taking care of yourself. And so I learned this the hard way. I was always a go, 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 go type A person, and I still am to an extent, but now I've learned my boundaries. I've learned my limits. I know what's healthy for me and what's not healthy. And these are things that are not taught in school. My parents for sure did not teach me this. So schools, education, government, no one's doing this job. And so I had to learn this on my own. I was reading over 200 books a year just to figure this out. I was researching, going to doctors in the US, in Europe, you name it. I've done everything to really help myself because it was my hair. It was my health that was on the line. And so first and foremost, it was selfish, you might say, to really try to help myself because conventional medicine, Western medicine, wanted to only cover the problem with a Band-Aid, so to speak.
And when you had that disease, what were you going through then in the beginning when that all started?
I was in denial in the beginning. In the beginning, I was in complete denial. It was actually my hairdresser in Denver who had noticed a bald spot in the back of my head. And it was really small, maybe the size of a penny. And she turned the chair around. She showed me a mirror and she's like, look at this. What do you think? And I was just like, this is funny. It'll grow back. No problem. I'm so positive. I'm so optimistic. I didn't think anything of it. I didn't have any alarms. I didn't, in my own self, I didn't feel like it was a cause of concern. And then 6 months later, that was in November. By May, I went to my old hairdresser in California, and he knows me for over 20 years. And I was sitting in his chair and he said, Johanna, you have alopecia. You need to go see a doctor immediately and get this taken care of. And I was like, alopecia. So I started Googling this thing, and then I started crying, and there was no way to be in denial anymore. There was just no way. But there was more episodes of denial because it's not like I can just, start eating vegetables and everything will be fine. That's not it.
Totally.
Because before I was vegan, before I was pescatarian, before I've done multiple stages throughout my health and wellness journey and diets and all these things. Coming from California, we normally stem the health and wellness industry. Everything starts in California, whether that's the trend of Pilates or the trend of this or the trend of that. It's normally stems in California. So I've been introduced to all these different diets. I've probably tried them all. And in any case, with alopecia, there was also more episodes to that because everything had to change. The way I looked at food, and through my research and through knowing about glyphosate and through knowing about GMOs and through learning about, big agra and how everything is really made and looking at food in another way. So for example, the doctor can say, fish is very healthy, or even the government. Anyone can say fish is healthy. It has omega-3s. It has this. It has that. But then when I have, let's say, a buffet of fish to choose from, as a regular consumer, you may not know that sardines are healthier than tuna, or you may not know that mackerel or halibut is better than, I don't know, yellowfin or better than red snapper, let's say. And so there's certain fish out there that have more toxins or more mercury than others. There's certain fish that are healthier. Let's say it'll be wild caught salmon over the commercial salmon that's, commercially raised. And so it's these types of things that I really had to hone in. Mm-hmm. And I thought I was very healthy. I had a personal trainer. I was extremely fit. I was working out every day, probably 2 hours a day. And just, my mom always said I was overactive. So I was overly exercising. I was, riding my bicycle. I was going to the gym, doing Pilates, doing yoga. This was not an issue because that's how I learned to really reduce my stress. But then I understood later on that there was other ways and my diet needed some changes. And so once I learned these changes, then my healing began.
So what do you think are the best things that someone can do in order to reduce stress?
It depends. Because many times your stress can come from work. So, from there, if it's work, which 70 to 80% of people who say they're stressed, it's normally because of work. It could also be because of finances. So it depends what the root cause of the stress is. So once you look at the root cause, then you can really evaluate, okay, how am I going to move forward? Mm-hmm. If it's stress from work, okay, what exactly is it? Is it the amount of work? Is it your boss? Is it the department? Is it maybe just this time period with the project? There's different ways to navigate all of it. Or where is the stress coming from? Is it your partner? Is it the children? Is it that you're moving? Or maybe you're getting married? Because even getting married and moving and all these exciting things, so it depends exactly what it is. But I think more than anything, it's being mindful, first and foremost. Being mindful, check in with yourself, listen to your body. If you need a nap, take a nap. If you want to just have some quiet time, do so. It's really being mindful, not rushing through things. So trying to enjoy every moment as much as possible. And these tips are really for day to day. It's not just for now, for the holiday season, but really all year long is trying to be in tune with your breath, in tune with with how you're feeling. And there's ways to do it beyond meditation. You could do yoga. You can go walk through nature. You can go to a spa. You can get a massage. You can do many things, even that are free, just breathing techniques that I've taught many times that really help you to reduce the stress, reduce the cortisol levels. Outside of that, there's vitamins or supplements. They all work in conjunction to create a healthy environment for you to thrive in.
Could you show us maybe one of the breathing techniques that you apply?
Yes. There's one called full yogic breath, which if you do any yoga or you have any relation to yoga, this is what they teach. This is one of many breathing techniques that they teach. But in normal terms, it's called box breathing. So box breathing is a count of 4, 4, and 4. So it's 4 inhale, holding for 4, and exhaling for 4. So if I'm going to inhale, I'm inhaling for, and then holding, and then exhaling. So if you do this on, let's say, maybe 3, 4 times in a row, and you can do this sitting down because sometimes you get lightheaded, you'll feel a reduction, a huge reduction of stress. You'll feel calmer. Your cortisol levels will drop, and it interacts with your nervous system. So it allows you to be able to calm down. And this is great for, let's say, before a presentation or before an interview or before, going in to see your boss for your yearly or maybe your quarterly review. There's so many times, maybe before a test, where you want to have focus, you want to have clarity, or maybe for a big decision, which house are you going to buy or which job are you going to take? It's necessary to be clear and calm-minded. And a lot of times in stressful situations, because we all have, our plates are very full, you just want to have the most calm and conscious way possible to make these decisions and to proceed in life, right? Imagine having just one opportunity to have that great interview or to have that great test taking. And if you don't make the test, maybe that's your ticket or not your ticket to college, or maybe that's your opportunity to advance to the next level. And so why not put in all our focus and all our best positive energy in it?
And how did you manage to really transition from working at such big companies to what you're doing now? What is just like so different and being so health conscious? And
so once I recovered from alopecia and I was able to grow back my hair, I had so much knowledge that woke me up. It shook me, the amount of information that's out there. Because you can find, if you go to any bookstore today, you can find over 100 books on diet, right? On how to lose weight. However, there's many different ways, authors, ideas, doctors, and almost conflicting information. So how do you really decipher all this information in terms of health and wellness? So once I was able to reverse my alopecia, then I tried to see how I can reverse it in others, and it worked. And so this was fantastic because now I felt like my program was able to be able to repeat itself, almost like a hypothesis and a theory. It was able to repeat itself in others.
And what are the main factors that are important to reverse it? Is it just food, workout?
It's discipline and effort. Effort in, effort out. So the more effort you put into it, the results you're going to get. It's just like dieting. It's how much effort you put into it, and dedication and commitment is the same amount of results you're going to get. Results don't happen in 2 days or 3 days. Just like losing weight, it takes time. It takes weeks and months to lose weight, to create muscle, to create the habits. It takes 21 days to create a healthy habit. So in regards to hair, it also has a life cycle. We have phases in where it grows, it pauses, so to speak, and then it falls. And so we want to promote the hair growth phase, but at the same time, we also want to create an environment that needs change. Because obviously, if you have an autoimmune disease, something's wrong. Mm-hmm. Your health is telling you something. Your body is telling you something. So whether that's lupus, diabetes, MS, something, or alopecia, something is amiss. We need to fix it. And a lot of times we can fix it with diet, with nutrition, with stress management. We can fix it with eliminating toxins and doing things that are healthier for us. And it's just being aware. So a lot of times people are not aware. So for example, I ran into a friend the other day. She had just had a baby and she was ordering something and it was tuna. And I was like, why are you eating tuna? You're breastfeeding. There's a lot of mercury in tuna. You shouldn't be eating this. And then she looked at me like this, with her eyes wide open. She's like, I've been eating tuna throughout my pregnancy because I was told it was good for you. So these are things that the people in general need to be more aware of, and they're not. So it's unfortunate that, first of all, there's no interest. So my curiosity has led me to really focus on health and wellness and bring it into the corporate world. So this is where I focus on corporate wellness because I believe that people in the 9 to 5, people who are putting in the 40, 50, 60, 80 hours a week, like I was, they need tons of help. Or else, this is why we see an uptick in burnout. This is why we see an uptick potentially in our relationships not working because there's just so much stress. And stress is the cause of a lot of things that can be avoided.
And what do you think are the best resources how someone can educate themselves about what's right?
In terms of stress management, there's tons of courses out there. There's tons of books, but it's not the knowledge that necessarily lacks. It's the reality of it. So for example, 2 weeks ago, I gave a speech and I gave a presentation on stress management here in Amsterdam, which was fantastic at Antler Global. So I think sometimes it's more impactful when you meet somebody and they show you pictures of the situation. Mm-hmm. And you see, let's say, for example, myself in person, and you're like, oh, this person looks very normal, very run of the mill, and this disease happened to her. This could easily happen to me. This could easily happen to the next person. Stress and disease in general, they're not racist. They don't discriminate. It can happen to anyone, as young as 2 years old. I've heard people who have alopecia at birth to people who are over 50 and 60. So it can happen to anyone. And so really it's trying to create lifelong healthy patterns for lifelong longevity. So that's my next thing. I'm looking towards longevity. I'm looking towards brain health. I'm looking towards how do I optimize and create optimal health, not just for today, but for every day for the rest of my life. And as we have better technology, as we have more research and more developments, this is where you start changing. Okay, so we know now, canola oil is no longer healthy for you. We know now certain things are no longer healthy, but it's making that switch, being dedicated to it and not falling back. So if you know, for example, that XYZ is not healthy for you, then eliminate it. Don't be tempted and just stop. So willpower, discipline is part of it, right? Because you want discipline. You need these things, whether it's to create a goal and to succeed in accomplishing it. Maybe it takes you a little longer, but there's still discipline.
And maybe some small things that we can implement in our daily lives to create these better patterns for us?
Yes. So I would say a lot of times people get overwhelmed because there's so much information. So I wrote 2 books on alopecia, on nutrition, and how to improve your whole environment and your whole life in regards to upgrading, so to speak, every aspect of it and creating health in every area. But a lot of my clients say that they're overwhelmed. It's so much information. They want to do it all, of course, but they need to break it down. And so I would say this, break it down and maybe take 5 action steps a month. Let's start there. 5 action steps, 5 things you could do. Start drinking water every day. Start moving a little bit more. Maybe, walk before dinner and then after dinner. Going to the gym, let's say, or signing up for the gym if you don't have a membership. Get a personal trainer and maybe start taking a yoga class or meditation or breathing techniques or going to sleep more. Sleep is huge. Sleep reduces, it's your time that your body needs to recharge, to let go of the toxins. So how about instead of watching Netflix at night, how about going to bed by 9, 10 p.m. and being really adamant about that, getting your 8 hours sleep. Let's just work on that. So start working on 5 things that you can do each month. And then once you feel like, okay, I got this and I'm ready for the next challenge. Okay, well then how about the following month? Then you implement 5 things each week and then increase little by little. And then this is a way where you could step up, kind of like a ladder. You could start incrementally improving your health and your wellness, but it takes time. It's not overnight. It's not even a makeover takes time. So, it's increments.
Yeah.
Baby steps.
Totally. And how did you establish yourself here in the industry when you started out in the Netherlands to get a client base?
Well, I think in general, it's outreach, it's PR, it's putting yourself out there. I love creating websites. So I created a new website for myself to really use it as an umbrella because LinkedIn falls short of that. LinkedIn is just almost one-dimensional. And so it's more of a CV or a resume, whereas a website can bring vibrant color. It tells a story of where you were, what skills you have, and where you go and where you can take your client. And so I've taken the time to create my website, to create the logo, and to really connect it and hone it in. So if you go to johannadalman.com, you'll be able to see this. It connects to other websites and other platforms like alopeciaangel.com. So I think that's first and foremost. Since I've moved a lot, because I've moved from California to Denver to Texas to Florida, I've lived in Brazil, I've lived in Argentina, I've lived here in the Netherlands, and I've studied abroad over 5 times, traveled extensively. I think sometimes when you do move to a new place, you have to go all in the community, all into trying to find your tribe, trying to find the people who are going to support. And so if that means networking, attending meetups, going to expat fairs, if that means whatever it is that you like doing, whether that's salsa dancing, or in my case, Pilates and yoga, find the studio that you want to affiliate yourself with and try to find like-minded people. If you love to travel more maybe and get to know the country that you're in. So these are all steps that I've taken every time I've moved. Really immersing myself, really taking the time, because wherever your energy goes, right, that's where everything flows. And so really focusing on meeting people who are like-minded, putting yourself out there, and little by little, things will connect. Again, it's not overnight. The first year of me living here in the Netherlands was quite difficult in terms of changing. I was shedding a lot of identities and creating new ones at the same time. But now it's almost 3 years and it's beautiful. And I feel like it's home. I'm making more friends. Business has grown. I feel so much more healthy, of course, and so much more imbalanced. Yeah, it's amazing. And so also give yourself time, because for entrepreneurs or for the person who's going through a change, whether that's a life change or a milestone, whether that's postpartum, whether that's getting married, whether that's changing jobs, or whether that's, changing countries or where you live, it all takes time. So allowing yourself the time, forgiving yourself for not, let's say, meeting those goals at the same time. So for example, let's say if one of your goals is to make 2 new friends in 6 months and you haven't made that, forgiving yourself and be compassionate and kind to yourself, because sometimes even as much effort as we put in, sometimes you don't reap it right away. So for example, if I'm sowing the seeds now, but the fruit won't be available until later. And so knowing that everything has a pattern, everything takes time. And, this is part of the journey. This is really part of the journey, and just to embrace it.
So what's the main way how you meet people?
Well, a lot of it's networking through BU. And so doing these events.
What's BU?
Boston University.
Oh, mm-hmm.
So I do these networking alumni events for them. And sometimes people who know me, like friends, like I said, this friend who's like, you need to do this project for me. And I was like, okay. Yeah, it's taken time. It's taken time. But once people meet me, they want me and they take advantage. So for example, they take advantage in a good way. So for example, when I was looking for a Pilates studio, I went to go to the Pilates studio and I wanted to see about taking classes or just using the equipment. And the lady, the owner, she's like, don't take classes here. How about you teach? I was like, oh, okay. So I started teaching. And without having my yoga certification or my Pilates certification, I taught in different studios. And it's not like I lied. I never lied. I told them I don't have it. But I know, and I do it very well, where it's almost like I didn't need it. Now I have it, but still, it was just for education.
How did you convince the people to give you a chance?
I didn't have to. They offered it to me. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It almost fell in my lap. So a lot of times it's coincidence. A lot of times it's that nudge. They say, there was a quote in my book that I was just reading, that coincidence is God's way of pushing you towards something. And so, when someone offers you something like tea, sure. So I tend to say yes a lot. I've learned to say yes a lot. A lot of times, maybe no because I'm scared or because of fear or because I don't want to go and do public speaking. But now when someone says, let's do a podcast, let's do this, let's do that. Yes, 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 yes. I'll say yes to most everything. Really, skydiving. Yes, let's do it.
How did you get to that point that you say yes always?
I think it's me. I think it's within me because I am very curious. I push myself to the limits, and I like pushing myself because that's how I've been able to learn more, see more, do more. And even if I make a mistake, but then I've tried it, whether that's eating liver and or eating something that maybe I don't like, but you try it. I've been always very curious. I remember I was in first grade, so I was 6 years old, and my best friend at the time was Korean, and I was in a school where it was all Americans, and she and I were the only ethnic girls there. Everyone else was blonde, blue eyes, American, completely. She was Korean, black hair, right, Asian eyes. I'm also very different. I'm not blonde, blue eyes. And so Latin, Korean, she became my best friend. And she taught me how to eat sushi at 6 years old.
It's an early age to eat sushi?
She brought sushi. She had a little bento box, a little California roll. And she taught me about the wasabi and the soy sauce. She taught me how to eat sushi at 6 years old. So then by the time my family and I, we went to a hotel to eat or to eat somewhere. I think it was Thanksgiving or Mother's Day or something like this. We went to go eat all together and they had sushi. I'm 7 years old by this time and I'm bringing sushi back. My mom's looking at my plate because we've never eaten sushi at the house. Never. And she's looking at my plate. She's like, what are you eating? I'm like, this is California rolls and this is how you eat it. I had my chopsticks and everything. And she was just like, okay, I have caviar on my plate. Like, really? A 7-year-old with caviar on their plate? I was just like loading it up. So it's being open, it's being curious. And I think a lot of people stick to their comfort zone, their hamburgers and French fries, or, their fish and chips, or whatever it is. They just stick to one thing. But I think if you're open, if you're like really wanting to explore the world, you embrace it all, whether it's disgusting or not. And in the beginning, of course, as a 6-year-old, I was like, raw fish, sushi, what's this? And I had it. I was like, oh, this is actually quite good.
Yeah.
Let me have another one. So I think being open, saying yes to adventure, saying yes to not settling, because settling is probably the worst disease ever. Being in a place where you're just like unhappy, unfulfilled. I'd rather keep working towards fulfillment, towards satisfaction, towards my definition of success versus living the way someone else wants me to live, or doing what they want me to do, and being unhappy and miserable.
But I think a lot of people are held back by the expectations of their environment.
Completely.
And it's so hard to break through that.
Correct. It's like a toxic relationship. It really is. Especially when it comes from your parent, because parents think, oh, I know what's best for you. I know you so well. I love you so much. And yes, this all might be true. But at the same time, where would we be today if people didn't take a chance and go to the moon? If people didn't take a chance and, discover and research new animals, new insects, new herbs, or things that can be helpful, new ways of doing agriculture, new ways of, using sunlight or clean technology. We can't be dependent on oil all the time. It has to be new ways. And so this innovative way of thinking and should be encouraged, even though, for many parents, if you're not a lawyer, an engineer, or a doctor, it's kind of, I don't recognize who you are.
And how do you think someone can break through these barriers?
Well, I think it's putting boundaries. So, for example, I know that the society's pressures, whether that's to get married and have kids by a certain age, or whether that's to buy a house, or whether that's to live like this or live like that, or be the attorney, or be this or be that, you have to really, look at yourself in the mirror and see, is this really the path that I want to take? Where is this pressure coming from? Is this from society? Is this from my partner? Is this from my parents? Like, who is this coming from? And then learn to create boundaries. And if you need to distance yourself, then do so. Because if you need your own space to figure out what it is that really drives you, really motivates you, that's where you need to lean towards a supportive person, community. And sometimes if you don't even have that and you have no support whatsoever, learn to support yourself. Learn to motivate yourself and do things for yourself, and not look for the acceptance or the approval. Because I think that's what we want as a society. We're always looking for approval. Oh, do I look good? And this is why we have like these influencers on Instagram and because there's approval, right?
Yeah.
There's so many likes, so many this, so many that. Don't look for the approval. Do what makes you happy.
And how do you create that feeling yourself to get the approval?
You have to let go. Let go of expectation. Let go of what people want from you. Let go of holidays is a great example. So, for example, I was asking someone I know, are you excited about Christmas? Are you excited about, the holidays? She has a son. She's a single mom. And she's like, not really. I don't like the holidays. It's too stressful. I hate bringing my family together. I hate, being away with family. She was saying all this. So why do you force a situation? Why not just go on a trip and go somewhere? Why not just stay in your house and isolate yourself, or go to an Airbnb, or go to a hotel and just relax and take those days off and do a little retreat or something? Do something for you. Why feel forced to spend it with family, or spend it with that uncle or that aunt who drives you crazy? Or, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, why force yourself? There's no point. And then when you're in that situation, you're like, all right, I'm here. I'm visiting family. I don't want to visit family. Okay. And they're forcing you. Oh, you have to eat this. You have to eat that. Don't force yourself. Like, hold to your truth. Be honest with yourself. And it's speaking your truth. It's being truthful to yourself. do what's best for you. It's always about that. It's not about pleasing others.
And can you tell us a little bit about a failure you experienced along your way when you were here in the Netherlands?
Well, there's been a lot of failures. First, I thought Dutch would be very easy for me to pick up. And I think with the intensive language classes I've taken, it does help, but you need more practice and more discipline, just like in a diet or anything else. You need more discipline. You need daily practice. So that's one thing. Another thing in terms of entrepreneurship is that I went through many identities with my business. I was still trying to figure things out. In the beginning, I thought I had clarity. I thought I had the model. I thought I wanted it this way. And through life circumstances and through different opportunities that I said yes to, it started evolving into another thing. And so I would say allow room to evolve, allow room to grow, and to maybe even change. So let's say you have a company and you offer widgets, one thing. You offer mugs. So instead of just this one mug, this one style, offer it or be open to evolving into other things. Maybe there's special collection mugs. Maybe there's seasonal mugs. Maybe there's mugs that are for every city in the Netherlands. Or maybe there's, in different languages. Whatever it is, but just be open to evolving. And maybe it's not even mugs anymore. Maybe now it's full housewares, ceramic plates and dishes and bowls and whatnot. So just be open to evolving and to adding more to your toolbox, because we all offer more than just one thing. We are all more than just one person. In this one person that we are, we have so many traits, so many characteristics, so many services that can really come from the heart and help others, whether that's, books or advice and so just like a book can come out of anybody, you want to be able to offer more and see where that goes. Maybe you love gardening and it's not something that you want to offer as a service, but maybe it's something you can do to volunteer wise, or maybe you could use it to strategically help your business or complement your business. And so be open to complementary things.
And how has your business evolved over the last years?
Well, so going back to that, it's been evolving and it's been complemented by numerous things in health and wellness. So when you think of health and wellness, maybe sometimes you think of a doctor or you think of a nurse or you think of a dietitian or a nutritionist or a health coach, because that's really big right now too, or a personal trainer. And so for me, I work on corporate wellness, but it's through my events, it's through retreats, it's through collaboration, it's through creating and storytelling of websites, it's through speaking, writing, blogging, it's through Alopecia Angel, it's through health coaching, it's through multiple avenues that service the person who might need my services. So depending on who I'm talking to, it could be one thing or another. And because these are through my experience, through my education and my expertise, I've created this toolbox of sorts that is more than just a hammer, more than just a nail and a wrench. I have many more tools in there. Some that are like high tech and others that are soft skills. And so through that, then I see, can I help you with something? And if not, then maybe I know somebody who can, because that's another thing I love to do. I love connecting people. So for example, I learned that you're Polish. What a beautiful thing. And that you also lived in Vienna. Fantastic. I also have these friends, these 3 friends who are Polish, and I'd love for you to meet them. And so to me, it's also about connecting people. It's not so much always about business, but it's also creating those relationships and those ties that fulfill you. Mm-hmm. So through many, many avenues, it's evolved. And I think who you are is also who you attract. So for example, I have a client who she reached out to me because she has multiple autoimmune diseases. But she also has a profession. She also is a professor. She also does yoga. She does many things. So we met up for lunch. We got to know each other. And now, in turn of this relationship, we are creating a website together. So I'm going to create her website together because she too has multiple tools in her toolkit. And at the same time, she also wants to create an event, health and wellness, here in the Netherlands. And so I'm also helping her with that. So a lot of times you don't know where the relationship can go. And so to me, I'm open. I'm open to the person. I'm open to learning. I'm open to seeing how open is the other person. And sometimes, synchronicities happen and you want to work with this person because a lot of times it's that. Do I want to work with Johanna? Is she the right person? Can she really take me to that next level? Or do I want to work with Charles or Karen or whoever it is? So it's a lot of that. So it's just connecting with people, enjoying them, embracing them, being present with them, being mindful with them, understanding where they're coming from, listening to them, and then, creating that friendship, and maybe that friendship grows into something else. So it's evolved because it's not so much about numbers to an extent, but it's also about the meaningful connections.
And do you have a last key takeaway, something like a personal insight that helped you grow that you would still like to share?
I think being grateful. Gratitude is a big part of growing. And even through the good and through the bad, I've been able to see where the bad aspects or the bad things that have happened have allowed me to enjoy and appreciate the good things now. And this is in so many levels, whether that's in relationships, in work, in drive, in motivation, in education. This can be applied anywhere, but I truly believe the more grateful you are and the more you're open and vulnerable, being vulnerable is key. The more open you are, the more you're able to receive, the more feedback you're getting, the more appreciation, the more impact. If I can just help one other person with alopecia or anything else, then I'm just so much happier because I've received feedback on how their health is doing, that their hair growth is coming back, and that they feel better about themselves. The self-esteem, the self-confidence, all this is important. And losing your hair is a huge traumatic event for women and for men. However, there are ways to reverse or mitigate it. And so again, if I can help you or I can connect you or if I can help the next person, then that's what it's all about. It really is. So having gratitude and being open and vulnerable, I think those are huge takeaways. So the sooner you learn it, the better it is.
Okay, great. And how can people contact you or how can they get in touch with you?
You can contact me at johannadalman.com, Johanna. Dalman is D as in dog, AHLMAN.com. You can contact me there, subscribe to my newsletter, Instagram, LinkedIn. It's all on there.
Okay, amazing. Thank you so much for being here and sharing your story.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for listening. If you don't want to miss out on future episodes, please subscribe to the podcast on your preferred platform and be sure to leave a review on iTunes or Google Play. And check out the show notes for a deeper dive on what you heard today.